Welcome to Breakdown, and welcome to episode 3 of The Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a fascinating plunge into the unseen world that keeps our public safety agencies connected: radio communication. We often picture the flashing lights and sirens of an emergency response, but behind that, there's this intricate, really high stakes dance of voices and signals. And it's absolutely critical. Our mission today is to unpack the vital role of dispatchers and their radio systems, exploring everything from the ironclad regulations to the subtle art of speaking when every second counts.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how this lifeline of public safety communication has evolved and the complex ongoing challenges it faces, especially ensuring seamless coordination between different agencies during, critical incidents. It's really a continuous push for clarity and efficiency under immense pressure.
Right. And we've got some incredibly detailed sources today. Things like comprehensive dispatcher guides, U.S. Department of Justice insights. Will break down the fundamental rules, the cutting-edge tech, and even some surprising, almost unbelievable real-life scenarios that just underscore how high the stakes are. So what does this all mean for the safety of responders and the public alike? Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. When we talk about public safety, what exactly is a radio dispatch system? Like, what's its fundamental role?
Okay. At its core, it's the vital communication platform. It's for real-time coordination between dispatchers and command centers and personnel out in the field. You can think of it as the central nervous system for emergency response. Dispatchers use these specialized consoles to monitor radio traffic, initiate calls, manage resources, all to ensure rapid deployment and, effective communication.
And these aren't just basic walkie-talkies, right? I mean, they're packed with sophisticated capabilities. Oh, absolutely, yeah, way beyond basic voice. Key capabilities include multi-channel communication that allows calls to be segregated based on operational needs or even geographic areas. They also integrate call management, prioritizing emergency calls, routing them efficiently. And many systems incorporate GPS tracking and mapping, what's called automatic vehicle location, or AVL.
AVL, right.
Yeah, that lets dispatchers monitor the real-time position of field units. Super crucial for resource allocation. And importantly, they almost always include recording and logging features. That's for incident reconstruction, training, documentation, basically ensuring a complete record of every action.
Wow. Okay, so it sounds like this isn't just a free-for-all on the airwaves then. This critical infrastructure must be, I imagine, incredibly regulated.
You're absolutely right. Public safety dispatchers operate in strict accordance with Federal Communications Commission, the FCC regulations. A really thorough understanding of these broadcasting procedures and rules is, well, it's essential.
What kind of systems are we actually talking about here? The ones under this regulatory umbrella?
Well, agencies often utilize advanced radio systems like 800 megahertz systems. These manage diverse operational needs with multiple frequencies and what are called talk groups.
Talk groups, like virtual channels.
Exactly. Think of them as dedicated virtual channels for specific teams or tasks like police patrol, fire department, maybe SWAT. And modern mobile and portable radios are often required to have substantial channel capacity, sometimes at least 400 channels. That's specifically to ensure interoperability between different units or agencies.
And I imagine adherence to these regulations isn't just about, avoiding fines. What are the real stakes of noncompliance?
Oh, the stakes couldn't be higher. Really, any form of interference or noncompliance can directly jeopardize officer safety.
Yeah.
And just the effectiveness of the public response overall. Laws explicitly prohibit things like signal jammers and restrict certain radio uses because disruptions can have immediate life-threatening consequences for responders and the public. I mean, imagine a dispatcher trying to relay critical info during an active shooter and their signal gets jammed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's terrifying. That's why the rules are so strict then.
Exactly.
So beyond the technical systems and the rules, there's a real emphasis on how dispatchers and officers actually speak on the radio. It's clearly not just casual conversation we're hearing.
No, not at all. This is where rigorous discipline and professional etiquette become paramount. It's all about maintaining absolute clarity, brevity, and accuracy, especially under pressure.
Okay, and on that note, one of the most interesting shifts I saw mentioned in the sources was the move away from 10 codes. Can you unpack what those are and why this change is happening? Seems like a big deal.
It is a big deal. What's fascinating here is the increasing emphasis on clear text, or plain English, over those traditional 10 codes. Now, while some agencies still use them, official guidelines, like those from FireScope in California.
FireScope, right, the Fire Resources Group.
Yeah, exactly. Their guidelines explicitly mandate clear text, plain English, should be used for all communications. Codes shall not be used. Pretty emphatic.
Wow, okay. That's a strong directive. So why the shift? What's the inherent problem with using codes in emergency situations?
Well, the problem lies squarely in ambiguity, especially during multi-agency incidents. Different departments might interpret the same code differently. For example, 10-4. It might mean I understand in one place,
Okay, yeah, message received.
right? But somewhere else, it could potentially mean man down, send back up.
Whoa, that's a huge difference.
Exactly. And that seemingly minor difference can lead to delayed or inappropriate responses. It directly impacts incident outcomes and, well, potentially jeopardizes lives when every second counts. So the trend towards plain language is really driven by this critical, undeniable need for better interoperability between agencies.
So it's really about eliminating any potential for misunderstanding when you've got multiple agencies responding together. Given that, how do dispatchers manage to be so concise and accurate, especially when things are chaotic?
Well, it comes down to training, rigorous training. They're taught to think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it before you key the mic. Messages should be concise, ideally less than 30 seconds long. And there are mandatory breaks for longer transmissions, to allow others to use the channel if needed.
30 seconds, that's not a lot of time.
No, it isn't. And proper microphone technique is crucial too, holding it like 1-2 inches from the mouth, keying it maybe 1 second before speaking. That prevents those garbled, clipped transmissions. They're also trained to maintain a calm, even voice, because excitement or shouting actually distorts the voice and can prevent understanding.
Right, and that professional standard means absolutely no chit-chat, no personal conversations on the air. It's all business.
Precisely. Professionalism mandates avoiding pleasantries, personal discussions, any unnecessary comments that waste airtime. Radio discipline isn't just about etiquette. It's about preserving a finite and critical resource. Radio channels are limited, right? And during high activity or major incidents, the radio system is the first to be overloaded.
Makes sense. Like a highway getting jammed.
Exactly. Poor discipline, like rambling on or transmitting simultaneously, call it walking on each other, can literally plug up the communication artery and kill the system. That hinders vital information transmission and delays emergency response. Every single transmission has a cost in terms of channel availability and ultimately time.
That phrase, communication artery, really puts it into perspective, and it brings us to a huge challenge for public safety. Interoperability. How do different agencies talk to each other, especially when they might have different equipment or be on totally different wavelengths?
Yeah, that's a persistent problem. Agencies often struggle to communicate seamlessly for three primary reasons: incompatible frequencies, incompatible equipment, and, as we just discussed, a lack of common language because of those differing 10 codes or jargon.
Okay, can you give us a quick overview of the frequencies involved? Like, what do we mean by incompatible frequencies?
Sure, the FCC authorizes multiple bands for public safety. You've got VHF low, VHF high, UHF, and then the 700 or 800 megahertz bands. If agencies aren't operating on the same band, their devices simply aren't interoperable without specific, often pretty costly solutions. It's kind of like trying to connect, I don't know, an old phone charger to a new phone. Different plugs.
Okay, got it. And even if they are on the same frequency band, the equipment itself can still be a barrier.
Yes, absolutely. Even within the same frequency range, differences in how the equipment is manufactured or configured can prevent interoperability. Agencies might use bridging devices or gateways to connect different systems, or sometimes they purchase a cache of radios just for emergencies, though that means responders have to carry a second radio and manage its power, which isn't exactly ideal in a crisis.
Yeah, sounds cumbersome. So what are the different types of radio systems agencies actually rely on day to day then?
Well, there are three main types that kind of form the backbone. First, you have simplex or line-of-sight systems. These are pretty basic, one-way communication at a time. And they don't rely on expensive infrastructure like towers. They use pre-programmed common frequencies. The big drawback is limited coverage, maybe just a city block. So not great for dispatchers, but useful maybe for firefighters inside a building or special ops needing signals to penetrate structures up close.
Okay, so short range, what's next?
Second, conventional radio repeater systems. These are more common. They use a repeater, usually set up high on a tower or a mountain, to extend the range way beyond what ground units could achieve on their own. They have one or more channels, each made of an input and an output frequency. The drawback here is inefficiency when you have a lot of people trying to talk, only one person per channel at a time.
Right, like a party line.
Sort of, yeah. And third, you have tranked radio repeater systems. These operate similarly to conventional repeaters, but use a computer and a control channel to dynamically assign operating frequencies. Users request to transmit to a specific trunk group, like that virtual channel we talked about.
Got it.
And the system automatically assigns an available frequency for that conversation. They can support many more users efficiently, but they're generally more complex and more costly to implement and maintain.
Okay, so knowing all these different systems and challenges, what are the practical steps agencies can actually take to improve interoperability, to ensure smoother communication during those big incidents?
Well, first and foremost, agencies really need to ensure their own internal systems work smoothly and reliably. Get your own house in order, basically.
Yeah.
Then it's about sharpening those collaborative relationships with other agencies, building trust and understanding before an emergency hits.
Proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. They need to get agreement on basic requirements from all the stakeholders involved and set realistic goals for what they can achieve together. And crucially, there are some lower-cost solutions that can make a significant difference. Things like pre-programming all radios with national interoperability channels, sharing radio frequencies with neighboring agencies for mutual aid, and, as we keep saying, universally adopting plain language communications for day-to-day transmissions. That helps build the habit.
It really sounds like dispatchers are so much more than just radio operators. They're constantly feeding information, synthesizing it. Absolutely vital for officer safety.
Oh, they truly play an indispensable role. The sources describe them as a critical second set of ears and even a scribe for incident commanders. They're often the first person to gather clues and cues about an emergency. They're like silent strategists in the midst of chaos.
How do they manage that active synthesis? What tools are they using beyond just listening?
Well, they provide real-time data from computer-aided dispatch, the CAD systems we mentioned. That's the central hub for incident info. This integrates with the automatic vehicle location, or AVL, hardware, offering those sophisticated visual mapping and navigation capabilities. That technology significantly improves situational awareness when responding to emergencies. It's huge. And beyond the tech, they're actively monitoring transmissions from other agencies, responding to emergency assistance requests, keeping watch commanders informed of the bigger picture.
And I understand they have specific protocols for actually keeping track of personnel during chaotic events, like head counts.
Yes, absolutely. Critical information relay includes things like elapsed time notifications, or ETNs. That tracks how long a unit has been on a particular assignment, and personnel accountability reports, or PARs, which are designed to ensure all personnel are accounted for, basically making sure everyone is safe.
PAR checks. Okay.
Right. They help manage timelines and confirm everyone's okay. Dispatchers are often in a superior position acoustically to hear distress messages, like a mayday. And they can relay critical information, sometimes even identifying the exact radio transmitting it, which can be absolutely life-saving.
So it's definitely not passive listening. It's active, dynamic risk assessment happening in real time.
Exactly. By actively synthesizing information from all these sources, callers, CAD, AVL, other agencies, and proactively relaying critical updates. Dispatchers function as this vital remote support system. This constant flow of accurate, timely information is crucial for officers to make informed decisions, adapt to evolving threats, and avoid dangerous situations. It directly contributes to their safety in these incredibly dynamic and unpredictable environments.
Okay, let's talk about the officer side. The radio an officer carries is often described as one of their most important tools, but it's also, surprisingly, a delicate piece of equipment with very specific operational demands, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah, portable radios, despite looking pretty robust, are actually quite fragile. They really must be carried in their cases. Experiments have shown that dropping one without its case can render it completely inoperative.
Wow, just one drop.
Yeah, and damage due to carelessness can even result in disciplinary action because of the cost and the critical nature of the device.
And a lost or stolen radio, that's not just an expense, right? It poses a significant safety hazard. How so?
Precisely. A compromised radio could be used to jam frequencies, disrupt emergency transmissions, or even allow criminals to monitor police operations and divert resources, plan ambushes. So officers are mandated to maintain physical possession throughout their tour of duty, never leave it in an unattended vehicle. It's literally their lifeline, and it cannot fall into the wrong hands.
And speaking of potential hazards, I found this truly alarming anecdote in the sources. A portable radio in an officer's pocket actually caused a round of ammunition to detonate. Extraordinary.
It's an incredible story, yeah. Really underscores unexpected risks. I mean, common sense dictates not carrying it in your shooting hand, for instance. Officers might also reduce the radio volume sometimes to avoid alerting suspects, though that doesn't affect their transmission volume. But that incident you mentioned, yeah, it was documented. A portable radio in an officer's rear trouser pocket came into contact with loose ammunition, caused an electrical short across the charging contacts, and detonated around.
Unbelievable. Was the officer okay?
Fortunately, yes. The officer wasn't seriously injured, but it highlights the critical importance of always carrying the radio in its case to prevent those kinds of freak accidents or other electrical shorts.
That's a really stark illustration. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Walk us through the journey of a 911 call. How does that initial emergency call actually reach an officer out in the field through this complex system?
Okay, so a 911 call first connects the caller with an operator. That operator determines the nature of the incident, gets all the necessary information. This information is then immediately entered into that computer system, the CAD system we talked about. That system links the 911 operator to the radio dispatcher. The computer rapidly compares the location, routes the information to the dispatcher assigned to that specific division or area, who then transmits it to the field unit best positioned to respond.
So it's a very standardized, almost assembly line-like information flow, designed to ensure no details are missed.
Exactly. Field units receive info on the type of assignment, precise location details, address, cross streets, apartment number, and any additional critical details like, complainant name, suspect description, direction of flight. Interestingly, multiple calls to 911 about the same incident can even help dispatchers confirm if the assignment is founded or unfounded. Gives them a richer picture.
That makes sense. And I also saw references to hazardous and sensitive locations in the sources. What exactly are those, and why are they important for dispatchers and officers to know about?
Right. These are specific locations designated in the 911 computer system that pose unique risks or require special handling. Hazardous locations. These present a direct threat to responder safety that could be from individuals, groups, or physical conditions, like areas storing explosives or firearms or sites with radiation or chemical hazards. For these locations, 2 or more units or maybe specialized equipment might be required to respond, and the dispatcher flags them immediately.
Okay, so immediate safety warning. What about sensitive?
Sensitive locations. These are places that might be subject to demonstrations or diplomatic or political confrontations. Think like the United Nations, foreign missions, certain religious institutions, places like that. Dispatchers are required to notify responding units of these designations too, so they can approach with the appropriate awareness and caution. It's all about providing responders with as much intelligence as possible before they even arrive on scene.
We talked about the shift away from 10 codes for clarity, but, they were the historical shorthand for decades. How did they work, and what function did they serve, even if they're being phased out now?
Yeah, historically, dispatchers definitely utilized these code signals to keep transmissions brief. It freed up radio time. For example, 1004 meant message acknowledged, pretty standard. 1013 meant assist police officer, specifically used when an officer was in immediate danger. And a fascinating detail is 1016 for vehicles reported stolen. The word stolen itself was often not transmitted.
Oh, interesting. Why not?
To prevent occupants, if they were monitoring the radio, from overhearing and potentially fleeing.
Wow, that's a clever detail. And there were codes to indicate if something was happening now versus in the past.
Yes, absolutely. Codes like 1030 for robbery in progress indicated incidents within, say, 5 minutes or where suspects were still on scene, while 1020 for past robbery was for incidents maybe 5 or more minutes in the past where suspects had already left. There were codes for everything from vehicle accidents 1053 to alarms of fire 1059.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were a verbal shorthand. But they were also designed partly to make it difficult for unauthorized people to monitor police operations.
Yeah.
And they also assisted in gathering statistical information. Dispatchers also use codes for dispositions like 1084 for arrived at the scene or 1092 for arrest.
Okay. And what about the phonetic alphabet? Why is something like Adam, Zebra, Lincoln so important?
Oh, the phonetic alphabet is crucial. It's used to eliminate confusion when transmitting individual alphabet letters, especially in noisy or high-stress environments where distortion can easily occur, right? So for a license plate number like, say, 398AZL, a field unit would clearly say 398 Adam Zebra Lincoln. It just ensures critical details like vehicle information, names, or addresses are understood clearly the first time. Minimizes errors that could have really serious consequences.
Makes total sense. So beyond these codes and the etiquette we discussed, are there sort of fundamental golden rules for effective radio use, things every officer and dispatcher lives by?
Absolutely. There are some key ones. The first is transmit only in the performance of duty. Seems obvious, but crucial. Always identify your command and assignment at the beginning of a transmission, for instance, 84 Adam to Central. Let people know who's talking and who they're talking to. Keep messages short and to the point, and use simple acknowledgments like K for clear or maybe 1004 still for message received and understood, although clear text is changing even those acknowledgments now.
So definitely no personal chats then, as we touched on earlier, just reinforcing that.
That's right. Person-to-person radio communication using individual names is actually prohibited by FCC licensing, and officers should generally avoid car-to-car transmissions unless police necessity absolutely requires it, and ideally, they should get dispatcher permission first. Remember, the airways are a shared vital resource.
Okay. What about keeping track of location, especially if an incident moves or isn't where it was initially reported?
Yeah, this is critical. Officers must keep the dispatcher informed of any change of location while they're on assignment. For example, if they're dispatched to apartment 4R, but the incident is actually happening in 3R, the dispatcher must be notified immediately, because that's where any assistance would be directed, right?
Yeah.
Dispatchers also require interim and final dispositions as soon as possible. Officers need to provide them upon completion of an assignment and before leaving the scene. It's all about maintaining precise accountability and situational awareness for everyone.
Gotcha. Any final safety tips related to the radio itself or its use out in the field?
Yes, a few very important ones come to mind from the sources. First, never remain in an area with poor radio reception. Find a spot where you can communicate. That's a dead zone for safety otherwise. And crucially, do not transmit within 150 feet of any blasting operations. Some blasting caps can actually be detonated by radio signals.
Wow, really? 150 feet?
Yes, and similarly, never transport blasting caps in a department vehicle for the same reason. Also, if a radio is broken, don't try to fix it yourself. Notify the dispatcher, exchange it, or schedule a proper repair. And lastly, just reiterate, avoid lengthy messages. If you need to convey a lot of detailed information, pick up the phone and contact the dispatcher that way to avoid tying up critical airtime.
So bringing this all together, what does this all mean? We've covered everything from the intricate regulations of the FCC to the nuanced art of clear text communication and the critical proactive role dispatchers play as those second sets of ears. It's really clear that public safety radio communication is far, far more than just talking into a microphone. It's this incredibly complex living system.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights how technology, these incredibly strict protocols and human discipline all converge. They form a lifeline that directly impacts the safety of first responders and the public every single day. And the constant challenge of interoperability, that push for clarity, it shows that this vital system is always evolving, always adapting. It's this relentless pursuit of immediate and flawless communication under pressure.
It truly is a testament to the unseen complexities behind every single emergency response we often take for granted. The next time you hear a siren, maybe consider that silent, unseen network of voices and signals that made that response possible. And this raises an important question for all of us, I think. In an increasingly connected, technologically advanced world, how might these vital communication lifelines continue to adapt to new technologies and new challenges while maintaining the absolute immediate clarity and reliability that emergencies demand? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into public safety radio communication. We hope you feel a little more well-informed about this incredible and essential system. Until next time, stay curious.